Entrepreneurship is really hard and it's challenging and it takes for a long time. Most businesses take 10 to 15 years to really come to fruition, even though the founders are sometimes young, but they also started young. If you're just chasing money and the dollar, it's going to be unsustainable because you need a why to feed your soul so that you are able to motivate yourself, get out of bed every morning, and also motivate the people around you who also you want to be connected to the business. So think about what gets you excited. What is it in the work that really makes you feel good when you get up in the morning? What is the impact that you create? If you're stuck, ask yourself a question that comes from Steve Jobs. How are we putting a dent into the universe? So over the past 23 years, I have helped over 150 businesses empower their teams, clarify their vision and strategy, and execute the discipline as an investment banker and as a business guide. And in parallel to this, I built two companies. The first one, MB Partners, which was an investment banking firm, which I grew to market leadership in Hungary and eventually sold to private equity. And the second, the Summit OS Group, that I started 2 years ago to help already viable companies triple their value in 3 years. Along this journey, I've learned many, many lessons, out of which I selected 3 lessons that I feel like I want to share with you tonight because it's going to help you build better businesses faster and with less pain. So shall we get into it? All right, so the first lesson is build a powerful why. And I'd like to start with a quote. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow, from Friedrich Nietzsche. So why I would like all of you to really dig in and build a powerful why for your business. And let me tell you why you need a why. Entrepreneurship is really hard and it's challenging. And it takes for a long time. Most businesses take 10 to 15 years to really come to fruition, even though the founders are sometimes young, but they also started young. If you're just chasing money and the dollar, it's going to be unsustainable because you need a why to feed your soul so that you are able to motivate yourself, get out of bed every morning, and also motivate the people around you who also you want to be connected to the business. Yes, there are unicorns, but they are pretty rare. So less than 1 in 1,000 companies turn into unicorns, so you cannot bank on becoming a unicorn. And my favorite quote around the why is when Steve Jobs was asked by the board, it was his first round being the CEO of Apple, and the board didn't like his leadership style, and they basically told him that you have to get another CEO in your place. And he went to John Scully, who was running PepsiCo, and he asked him the question, John, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? And he did come with him. So my personal journey and my why, I didn't really get this concept for a long time. So when I started my first company, MB Partners, what I wanted to do, I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to build a big business that I was going to be proud of. That was what drove me. And when the political wind started blowing against us and things started going astray, then I went searching for new markets, eventually came to the US, and eventually sold my business. I didn't really have a why that would keep me going. And when I came to America, I still didn't get this. And I became a franchisee with Vistage, a CEO peer group company. And the older senior Vistage coaches, they asked me, Steve, what is your why? What do you really want? Why do you want to be a Vistage coach? And I thought this was BS. I just wanted to be coached by the best company, Vistage. I wanted to be successful. I thought that it was all about hustling, signing up clients, and providing good content to them, providing good coaching. And that's what the business was about. However, about 5 years ago, when I was doing the research for my book, Buyable, I stumbled upon a statistic that really moved me, which was that every year about 180,000 companies disappear because they run out of cash, or they get disrupted, or they get commoditized, or they are not able to attract the right people or keep the right people, or they can't transition the business to the next level of management or next level of ownership. And I call this disease business COVID. And basically, I had this idea that I want to work on eradicating business COVID. And that's why I founded the Summit OS Group, so that we can do that. So when I started to get this idea of this why, I started teaching it to my clients. And let me give you a couple of examples. So one of my clients was a coaching company for doctors. And their why became helping doctors reach escape velocity from these hamster wheel hospitals. Another client who was manufacturing packaging equipment Their why became saving people from unhealthy and unpleasant tasks when they were working in hot and dusty big warehouses. And the third company, their why became to help people realize their full potential and enjoy a better social life. That was a plastic surgery in California. So these companies got really excited about doing something big for other people. How should you find your why? I'd like to share with you a process. So think about what gets you excited. What is it in the work that really makes you feel good when you get up in the morning? What is the impact that you're creating? Then peel the onion. What is the why behind the what? Because people like to gravitate and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm a manufacturer. I'm a service provider. But that doesn't matter. What matters is why you are doing it. What is the impact you're creating for other people's lives? And finally, if you're stuck, ask yourself a question that comes from Steve Jobs. How are we putting a dent into the universe? So if you'd like to work on your why, scan this QR code, and there is a free worksheet that you can download, and you see some of these examples and other examples, and you can work on figuring out your why. All right, you got it? Okay, so lesson number 2, leverage your constraints. The enemy of art is the absence of limitations, Orson Welles. So constraints are really a huge creative catalyst for your business. And I came upon this concept, I was researching for another book, Strategy OS, that the most successful companies, they had huge constraints in their business, impossible constraints, and they somehow figured out a way to overcome it, and that became their competitive advantage. For you in the startup sector, this is a great opportunity because startups are all about constraints. You are running startups that don't have enough funding, and therefore you are forced to find novel ways of solving problems. And because you are finding a novel way, that can become a competitive advantage for you. My favorite example is IKEA. So IKEA was founded by a Swedish farm boy in the middle of nowhere on a Swedish farm, and his name is Ingvar Kamprad. And when he was 13 years old, he was a good student. He got some pocket money from his father, and he sent a letter and bought 100 pens from a Swiss pen manufacturer. He loves pens. And he started writing these letters to village folks selling those pens. And turned out he was a pretty good writer. And over time, this letter turned into a newsletter and eventually into the IKEA catalog, which was the most published document in the world, printed in 40 million copies in 2012. Then when he sold all the pen that there was a market for, he started dabbling in furniture. And he didn't have a sales force. He didn't have a showroom. He had nothing. So he came up with this idea that he would present the furniture at trade fairs around Sweden, and he would just hang on the price stickers on the furniture, which was a novel thing. He got banned by the trade association because of that. But that became, again, a unique thing that they did, and it became very successful with consumers. And then he got banned by the trade association. No one was allowed to sell him furniture. He would go across the Nordic Sea to Poland, and he would buy cheap furniture from the communist Poland, and then he started to build his supply chain in Romania and Poland. And there's also a story that one time he was observing that one of his managers tried to squeeze a table into a car, and it wouldn't fit, and he got so frustrated he broke off one of the legs of the table, and that gave the idea for the modularity. So that problem turned into the modularity of IKEA. So these constraints really helped to build IKEA into the dominant furniture retailer of the last 50 years. The second largest company is 1/10 of the size of IKEA. So let me tell you a couple of examples from my career with my company and my partners, how this helped us, the constraints. So when we started, we were focusing on advising on loans like SBA loans to entrepreneurs, and we got pretty good at it. So we kind of cornered the market with it. And the local SBA in Hungary, they got so pissed off with us doing all the job that basically they banned us. And we had to pivot overnight. And we started doing mergers and acquisitions consulting, and it turned out to be a blue ocean opportunity. It was a much better opportunity, and we could grow faster. Then the next thing that happened was we wanted to join an international network, and they snubbed us. They said we were too small. So we created our own network in Central Eastern Europe, and 2 years later, the biggest network asked us to merge with them, and they invited me on the board of that biggest network. So again, that turned into a limitation, turned into a huge win for us. And another time, we had a cash crunch, and I realized that we were going out of business if you couldn't accelerate our cash flow. And we basically hunkered down, and we figured out how to take a company to market instead of 3 months in 3 weeks. And that accelerated our cash flow, and it created a competitive advantage because everyone wanted to come to us to take them to market faster. So what I'd like you to do is to think about constraints not as a curse, but as a blessing. So constraints create a competitive moat for you, and it also helps you clarify the problem. And when you have a clear problem definition, it's half the solution. One word of warning with AI. So AI can only tell you a solution that has already been discovered by other people. That's not going to be a new solution. So if you want new solutions, don't over-rely on AI. And in general, your brain is a muscle. If you're not exercising it, you are going to lose it. So just be careful with AI. All right, lesson number 3. Seek out mentors and guides. Our chief want in life is somebody who will make us do what we can. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Of course, I mean, you're here, you're startups, you are getting mentoring, but I would like to make the case that mentoring is actually more important than you even think. Because information is now everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's at the tip of your fingers. You just ask ChatGPT, but information is not wisdom. And when you work with a mentor, you get wisdom. And what is wisdom? It's the filtering of the information. So the mentors can help you filter it. They help you reflect on the information. And they also hold you accountable, which AI is not able to do that. It's only humans can do this job. So how can you get mentoring? There are many, many ways to get mentoring. I was fortunate early in my career because I had a couple of bosses. I worked for an investment banker and a CEO, and I followed them around. I watched them, how they show up. I took notes of the questions they were asking. And then I discovered audio CDs. That was in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I ordered the audio CDs of Brian Tracy and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. And I was listening to these CDs, and they really inspired me to start my business. So when I started my business, I started reading business books. And one of the books I stumbled upon was Michael Gerber's E-Myth. And Michael Gerber, what he talks about in the E-Myth is that your business is a machine, and you can actually build it so that it runs itself, and you work on your business instead of in your business. And I thought this idea was genius. So I engineered my business based on the E-Myth concept. And then I started going to seminars, and I learned copywriting from Dan Kennedy. I come over the ocean, and I started sending direct mails and create a newsletter. So that really helped me elevate the business. And then when we merged with this network, then I traveled around the most successful investment banks, and I interviewed the partners, and I basically copied all their processes. I implemented in my business. I would never have succeeded without these great mentors that I had. So after I moved to the US, I joined this company, Vistage. And the reason I joined them was that I realized that none of the stuff I did in Hungary was working over here. So not the marketing, none of the sales. So I thought, okay, so I'm going to join this company. They will coach me how to do this. And then I had to form this CEO group. But really all I wanted to do was to get these high-powered CEOs in my group who were running much bigger companies than I was so that I can learn from them. Officially, I was the coach, but I was learning by osmosis from them. And then I joined US Worldwide and Scaling Up to learn about operating systems. And then I started a whole podcast, and that was the best learning because every CEO I interviewed shared me their best framework. So I'm 300 coaching sessions in at this point. So why do I share this with you? The reason is because even though I got a lot of mentoring and coaching, I think I still missed a bunch of opportunities. So I have FOMO around this. I could have done even more. And the reason I didn't do it is because I was afraid of the overwhelm. I was afraid, I was insecure. I was afraid that they would expose my weaknesses. And what I forgot was that the opposite is true. When you have a great mentor, they provide you clarity, they give you validation, and then they help you focus on the important things. So they actually help you, and they also hold you accountable. So how do you find a mentor? So that's the easiest thing, to find a mentor, because mentoring is not just rewarding for the mentee, it's also highly rewarding for the mentor themselves. And mentors are hungry to have talented entrepreneurs that they could mentor. So just get out and ask people, even if you think that they are much better than you are, ask them to mentor you, and they will be happy to do so. Now, if you'd like to be mentored by a Summit-OS guide, we are donating, Peter and I and my other colleagues, Peter Santry, my fellow Summit-OS guide, is here. We are donating 3 45-day execution momentum programs to you when we are going to be intensively working with companies and help you implement all the basic management techniques into your business. I will share with you a QR code at the end of my talk. So, the 3 lessons I wanted to share with you tonight. Lesson number 1, find your why, find a powerful why. It's going to help you through the tough times. Lesson number 2, leverage your constraints. That is going to be the most powerful for your business when you find the biggest problem and you solve it. And third, seek out mentors. That's going to cut years off your learning curve and make you a much, much better entrepreneur. And in closing, I'd like to share with you, whether you win a prize tonight or not, remember Winston Churchill. Success is never final. Failure is rarely fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Thank you.
Stick around for a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Steve, thank you so much for all of those insights. While we have you, I was hoping that you might be willing to field a couple of questions, at least from me. So one of the things that it piqued my interest in the background that we had from you is that you talk about the importance of helping founders to overcome burnout, because the challenges are immense at every stage of the game. So could you touch a little bit on strategies that you coach startup founders on in order to avoid burning out themselves and burning out their team while they're shooting for the moon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a couple of things that is really important. I have found, and I learned this too late in life, I learned it about 7-8 years ago, that you have to take at least 24 hours off every week. It is unproductive to work 7 days a week. It's in the Bible as well. So take full 24 hours off, whether it's Saturday or Sunday or whatever other day is. It's really, really important. Secondly, you have to look after your health. So do exercise. What I find is if I do regular exercise, I actually have more energy in the remaining hours that I'm not doing exercise than if I didn't do the exercise. So make sure you are doing exercise. The third thing is compartmentalization is super important. So you as a founder, you are going to have a lot of stress in your life, and sometimes you're going to feel overwhelmed. And it's very important that you don't allow the problems to overwhelm you. So put the problems into a box, put it on a shelf, and make time in the week to deal with it, but don't allow it to take the oxygen out of the room. During 2008-9, during the financial crisis, my investment banking business, we almost went out of business. I had to cut the staff by 50%. It was a very tough time. We were deeply in debt, and basically, I couldn't pay my bills on time, and it was super stressful. Yeah. And the creditors were calling, and if I responded to everything, that I could not recover the business. So I decided that I was going to do 3 hours on Friday morning when I'm going to deal with this really difficult and unpleasant stuff, and the rest of the week I'm going to forget about it and focusing on sales and growing the business. So I highly recommend that you work out your way of compartmentalizing so that you don't allow these problems to overwhelm you and to make you dysfunctional, because you have to grow the business, you have to be positive most of the time, and your staff also gets energy from you. So if you are stressed, if you are drained, your staff is going to be drained, and the whole company is not going to be effective.
Yeah, that's super, super important and much easier said than done, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about your Summit OS program and how you provide practical coaching to allow entrepreneurs to achieve that clarity of focus over what's important, compartmentalize, and do all sorts of things? And since you're being generous and giving away 3 opportunities to do that, what could founders that might be in the audience expect from being able to work with you guys?
Yes, so I mentioned Michael Gerber with the email. So he is the OG creator of an operating system. He was the original guy in 1986. And then there are many iterations. There's Great Game of Business, and then EOS is the most popular one. Scaling up, OKRs, you probably heard of these systems. And what I wanted to do, I looked at these systems, and I felt that most of them focused just on the first phase of the journey, the execution phase, and the visioning and culture building, a little bit of systemizing, but didn't go very deep. And the other problem I had with those systems was they were very cookie cutter. So every company started at the same point and ended at the same point. It was a limited program, so just when companies were getting going, they flatlined because there was no longer learning, no new more learning, it wasn't customized. So what we did with Summit OS, we accelerated the front end of the process. So what the most popular operating systems do and kind of spread out over 12, 18 months. We do it in the first 45 to 60 days. And then from that point, we customize the journey for the type of company. If it's a professional service company, we are going to focus probably more on leadership development, playbooks, strategy. If it's a construction company, we're going to work on management skills and maybe function ownership. So we are going to customize the journey we are customizing the journey to these companies. We have a very deep toolkit, so the job of our guides is to curate from this very deep toolkit those handful of tools every year that we are teaching to these clients. And what we want to do is help them, keep them growing. So not overwhelm them, but keep them stimulated, keep them excited about their journey, and hold them accountable so that they are executing well.
Amazing. Thank you for that overview. One last question for you. What advice would you give to startups that you've either met over here in the showcase area or based on what you see about the startups that pitched tonight?
The invite would be to scan the 45-day execution momentum and apply. So we have 4, actually we are donating at least 4, but probably more because our guides are volunteering for it. And also you can download a copy of my latest book through the SummitOS website if you scan this other QR code. And if you'd like to learn more, come to the back of the room and we have booths there, and I can give you another copy of the strategy book or the Bible, and we can talk more about SummitOS if you're interested.
That's fantastic. Steve, thank you so much for making the time to travel up to Hartford, Connecticut to be with us this evening. We really appreciate it. We will invite you to go back to the table in the back of the room and talk with people who may be interested. Thanks again for all of your help.